If you have ever found yourself in a difficulty while working on a harp piece that was described as easy or for beginner harp, and you felt frustrated, or maybe you even started doubting your ability to play the harp, I'd like you to stop right there. Before you start thinking of giving up, there are a few things you need to know that will help you get through this and feel a lot better about yourself and your playing. Hello there, I'm Zuzanna. I'm a professional harpist, harp teacher and creator of online harp courses. And here at Coffee Break Harp I'm sharing tips and advice on all things harp. If you want to progress and enjoy your harp playing even more, make sure you subscribe my channel so you get notified about all new videos. Now, before I share with you my advice on dealing with difficulties in a piece that seemed easy but turned out to be anything but, I think we need to talk for a moment about why things like that happen, and why likely none of these reasons are about you or your playing. First of all, unfortunately, it is actually quite hard to be perfectly accurate when describing a difficulty level of a piece. Even though you may see a lot of descriptions of pieces using words like beginner or elementary or grade 1, 2, and so on, sometimes it is really hard to be precise when it comes to something as complex as music, with all its different challenges. Even as teachers, we need some more information than just these few words before we decide whether a piece would work for our student at this particular time. Because even if you've got two pieces that are both labeled, let's say, grade 2 or any other expression, these two pieces may give you completely different challenges. It may even be that one player will find one of these two pieces a lot easier than the other, and another person just the opposite. Sometimes this may be to do with a playing technique used in a piece that you're not quite familiar with yet, for example placing or overlapping brackets, and then when you gain a little more experience with this particular aspect, the piece will indeed feel very easy. Also, sometimes you may get a book or a set of pieces which includes two different versions of one and the same piece, one of the versions being slightly easier than the other. I have created some arrangements like this, like for example my arrangement of the Ash Grove. Very often, these two versions would be just labeled as easy and advanced version, but this doesn't mean that the easy version is the easiest you will ever find, or that the advanced version is the hardest. It's just that sometimes one or two words can't describe music accurately, and if you're in doubt, it's always a good idea to ask a teacher or a more experienced harpist. So that's one thing to bear in mind, that the description of a difficulty level in a piece may not always be super accurate, despite the very best intentions of the composer. The other thing is that some pieces are written in a way that may not be so straightforward to read. This is nobody's fault, and it's usually just because music notation has its limitations. Just like any language may not always have the right words to describe things in a way that's clear for everyone. So if you feel like you keep getting stuck in your pieces but can't quite tell what's happening, it may be that you're running into two of the most common stumbling blocks that's got all to do with how music is written. I've talked about this in one of the earlier videos, which I will put for you here and in the description of this episode. Last but not least, just like words and music notation have their limits, also our instrument has. If you're learning a piece that was originally written for another instrument or voice, or maybe a group of instruments, playing such a piece, even an easy version on one instrument, the harp, may not be as simple as playing an easy piece that was originally written for this instrument, for the harp. And also, in case you haven't noticed this already, our instrument is also not the easiest to learn, with its special technique, two hands doing different things, and quite a few other challenges. So, to sum up this part, if you have been working on a particular piece regularly, using helpful practice strategies like playing slowly and working on small sections, then in all likelihood, even though this piece may seem easy at first, there's probably still more that you need to discover. There's nothing wrong with you, and you may simply need more time, more insight into what's tricky, or both. So how can you make your life easier while learning these pieces that may seem simple but aren't exactly as straightforward? My tip number one will be to try to understand what exactly makes a piece challenging. Is it the technique that you're not quite familiar with? Is it an unusual pattern, fingering that doesn't quite work, or maybe both? Very often we get into difficulties when we start putting hands together, and that's a big topic for quite a few separate videos, but in that case try to ask yourself what exactly is it that makes it hard to connect the two hands? What's happening when you start putting them together? Which bits work perfectly fine hands separately but suddenly get stuck or feel not possible? There may be quite a few different reasons for problems happening there, but what can help you find the answer is looking for similarities and differences in your pieces. In general, things that are similar will usually feel easier, while any differences are more likely to be difficult. There's also a special category where you get really similar sections with only some tiny differences, and that's probably the most difficult scenario you can come across, but we'll get to that. Now, no matter what level your pieces are, there are three main reasons you may run into difficulties here. Reason number one, there's something different that may look familiar but actually isn't the same thing at all, which means that you're learning something completely new to you, and that always takes more time and work. Reason number two, there are some similarities that make that piece easy to play, but you haven't discovered them yet. And then you're kind of doing the same work twice, working out the notes or the rhythms without realizing that you actually know them already. And this is really, really common, and when I point out all these similarities to students, they are really surprised when it turns out that they know already how to play this. To give you a better idea of this, here's a short example from a harp arrangement by Anne Crosby Godet that I will link to in the description of this video. When you haven't got much experience in spotting patterns, at first glance these three bars may look completely different, and you will feel like every time you arrive at the next note you need to work out what it is. But when you have a closer look, you will see that each of these bars uses the exact same pattern, just in different places on the harp. In the first bar we play G, D, G, A, B, D, and in the second bar we do this too, just higher up on the harp. And in the last bar we do the same, but now an octave lower, with this tiny difference at the end, the last two notes played together, instead of one after another. And this brings us to the most common reason for things being tricky with these similarities and differences. Reason number three. That's when there are both similarities and differences within a piece, but you're not very clear yet about what exactly is the same and what's different. Here it can be that your fingers are getting confused because they can feel that what they are asked to do now is similar to what they've been doing before, but they don't know what exactly is different, and they sort of go into this panic mode, doing whatever feels easiest at the moment. When you notice these similarities and differences, you will be much more clear about why exactly a piece may feel more difficult, and also knowing about differences will usually be the key to the next steps in your practice. I can almost sense your next question here, but how do we find out about all these similarities and differences? Because if we haven't noticed them right away, chances are that they are hidden pretty well, right? Those of you who have been following Coffee Break Harp for a while may already know the answer, which is the patterns. I've been talking about it in this and a few other videos that I will link to in the description of this episode. The main message is, if the idea of patterns sounds very new to you, watch that earlier video first and then start from recognizing the most basic patterns, the repeats and the steps. With just these two, the way you will look at your pieces will change, and you will get a lot more clarity about what exactly is tricky and how you can find your way around it. I teach about patterns in much more detail in my online course Reading Music for Harp. So if you'd like me to guide you through this while getting better at reading music and learning new pieces, follow the link to learn more about the course and when enrollment opens again. Spotting patterns may feel tricky at first when you're not familiar yet with all the different ways how musical patterns work. If you find it difficult, it may be worth asking a harp teacher for help or reach out to a more experienced harpist or your practice buddy. But as you gain more experience, you get to know more pieces and see even more of these similarities and differences. You will learn where to look for them and how to plan your practice to navigate these challenges better. Most importantly, remember to take your time, be patient, and avoid being harsh on yourself. The reason why something feels hard is most likely because there is something new for you to learn in there. And even if a piece is described as a beginner's piece or easy arrangement, it just may may happen that you will come across something that you haven't experienced before, because you're still learning. So there's nothing wrong with you, and most likely there's nothing wrong with any of your pieces. Although it's always worth checking with yourself whether this is the right time for you to play this piece, or maybe whether you need to do some more basic work on skills like placing, patterns, or technique before you get to it. But if you made sure this piece is right for you, where you are now, be kind to yourself and reach out for support when you need it. I assure you that you can get there. Are you working on a piece which seemed easy at first but is giving you unexpectedly hard time? And if so, which of these tips will you try first to progress? Feel free to share with us here or in our friendly harp community that I will link to in the notes. And of course, remember to subscribe Coffee Break Harp to get notified when new videos are out. And if you like this one, give it a like and tell us all about it in the comments too. And also feel free to share with your harp friends. I'll see you here very soon. Take care for now. Bye!